2019 has been a successful year for the Guyana Water Incorporated, with improvements in first-time access to potable water, level of service, water quality, and customer services. Today's program is intended to reflect on these accomplishments and highlight projections for the new year. My name is Leanna Bradshaw, and on the panel with me today are Mr. Marlon Daniels, who is the Executive Director of Customer Services and Commercial Relations. Sitting beside him is Mr. Ramchand Jailal, who is the Executive Director of Hinterland Services. Then we have Mr. Dwayne Sheko, the Executive Director of Operations. And besides him, Dr. Dion Anderson, Head of Water Quality. Welcome to the program, gentlemen.
Thank you.
So recently, the UNDP 2019 Human Development Index indicated that 96% of the country's population is currently using improved drinking water, while another 86% now have improved access to sanitation facilities. Now, this is a big deal for Guyana, and it also, along with other things such as education, electricity, and so forth, moves Guyana up 2 places on this index. It's also a big deal for GWI. I'd like to know your reaction to this new development. And I'll start with you, Dr. Anderson.
Thank you, Liana. I think this is definitely a win-win for Guyana and for the Guyana Water Inc. because it basically shows us that an increasing our population is gaining more and more access to water supply, not only water supply, but to improved water quality. And GWI has been working assiduously to ensure that that goal is being met. So definitely it's great news on our part.
Mr. Sheko?
Unlike Dr. Anderson, I'm happy, but I'm not satisfied. Because coming from the operations side, I know there's still a lot of challenges out there in terms of delivering a service. We're at 96%, but our aim is to get to 100%. And 100% good quality and continuous supply. So whilst I'm happy that we were able to move 2 places and really got to bring the percentage up to around 96%, I'm still not satisfied, and there's still a lot to be done.
I hear you. Mr. Jala?
Well, it shows that we have advanced at GWI and as a nation, and there is still work to be done, especially since I'm in charge of the hinterland, and if we can reflect on the more than 200 indigenous communities, and GWI is advancing more aggressively in the hinterland, and that has also resulted in us achieving this target. There is still more work to be done, but I want to say congratulations to the management and staff of GWI and of course the nation. We are moving.
Great. And Mr. Daniels?
Right, thank you. I think I share the sentiments of the other members of the panel in saying that yes, we have achieved a lot. I think the entirety of this panel has served this company for over 10 years. So for us, it's more an achievement in terms of our nation, but it's a personal achievement for each of us because we've been here for quite a number of years, and we've worked very hard towards improving access and improving quality across the country. I'm particularly pleased that Mr. Sheko would have mentioned that our aim remains 100% coverage, and perhaps even 100% increase or improvement in water quality. So water remains the fabric that holds the society together. So any improvement or any recognition of improvement, whether nationally or internationally, makes each of us very proud.
And I actually agree with you when you said that it's a personal achievement, because I believe that water, and it's not only my belief, but it's a fact that water is a basic human necessity. So to be able to provide this to persons who were without access is definitely a personal achievement. So we'll head into some of our works for 2019 and reflect on that. And GWI has been very, very busy in 2019, especially in the hinterland, and we've been bridging the gap as it relates to access to water with the coastland. And as a result of this, we've drilled approximately 22 wells countrywide. Mr. Jailal, what is responsible for this groundbreaking achievement?
Liana, this is indeed a groundbreaking achievement because the hinterland especially is now a large focus as the coastland. We have, as you have said, we have drilled more than 20 wells across the country. But in the hinterland, we have 17 wells that have been drilled in the year 2019. And over the years, we have drilled almost 50 wells across the country. You see, we have a target to meet. We have our mission, which is to deliver safe, adequate, and affordable water supply, not only in the coastline alone, but throughout the country. We also have the Sustainable Development Goal number 6, which we are targeting now, which it gives us as a nation and the world up to 2030 to achieve universal access to potable water. But we believe as a country that as we work together as a cooperative republic, we can be able to achieve this by 2025. And we're almost very close to that target. We are at 96%. But in any work, as you enter into the last phase of the work, sometimes it becomes more challenging. And so in the hinterland, we have many communities that have access, but there is not 100% access. Because some of the residents are at far reach. So you may have a water system and it's central, but we have challenge to get to the outskirts of the communities. But as a company, we are targeting 100%, and we're going to work towards that. It's a focus, the focus of GWI, and now that we have a new department established, which is the Hinterland Department. So Mr. Sheko, he focuses on the coastland, and we focus on the hinterland so that we can be able to ensure that we achieve those targets by the timeline set.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned that the Hinterland Services Department is a new one, and it has been established for just about a year now. And I think it was a good move by our managing director. I mean, it's not as though we haven't had any emphasis on the hinterland, but now the focus is more there, as you mentioned. And in the past, the wells were drilled to provide water mostly at standpipe levels, but this has not been the case for the last 4 years. Could you explain the scope of works that it now entails in terms of providing water supply systems to these communities?
Oh yes. When we speak of equal access, we speak of access at the level of the homes of residents. So when you talk of standpipe forces persons to have to walk to go to a standpipe, and sometimes the standpipe there is 2 or 3 or 4, a few standpipes within a community, and residents have to walk to come, and that's a thing of the past. We are moving ahead, we are advancing, and so in the past we had the wells that were drilled, and there were one well, or sometimes in communities they were like a hand dug well, which was drilled, which is between the depth of 20 to 40 feet, and at times they become dry. The water that comes from those wells were just enough to feed the standpipes and could not get to all the homes of the residents. Now we have groundbreaking technology. Now we have we are utilizing the resistivity logging. We're utilizing new drilling technologies where we can go deeper beyond the aquifers. We can go into the rocks, and we can find pure water, which requires little or no treatment, because we are testing, and Mr. Anderson will speak of that. And so we can be able to bring those volumes of water and ensure that there is sustainable supply for the entire community. We can be able to, in the hinterland, for example, we can be able to install photovoltaic systems that will pump the water using solar power to tanks, to large storage volumes, and those tanks will keep the water during the course of the day and night. And so residents can access water throughout the day and night, and that's what we say 24-hour service. We are also looking at ensuring that there is not only solar, but there are other forms of energy supply, and so we're looking at wind, we're looking at other source of renewable energy, and those will help us as a company to ensure there is 24-hour supply.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Jalal, for that explanation. And moving across to the coast, right beside you, Mr. Sheko, GWI completed 3 major projects in 2019, that being the water treatment plants at iFlood, Diamond, and Chitanka. And of course, this is in addition to other wells here and there like Westminster, Port Joint, and so forth. How many residents are expected to benefit from these plans, and what are some of the improvements they can expect?
Around 50,000 residents will benefit from the 3 plants combined.
Wow.
And the most important thing is that what you'll see is an improved service level, which is pressure, and you'll see an improved quality. I think for me, the most important of the 2 is the quality. So the 3 plants will allow residents now to be able to actually drink the water, take it from the tap, and drink it. It'll be iron-free, bacteria-free, right? And that will allow. And we just spoke about the improvement in terms of sanitation and standard of living, right? And there's no substitute in terms of improving standard of living than water. So we'll see an improved water quality. We'll see an improved service level and in terms of increased improvement in redundancy and consistency in supply. All the 3 of these plants have standby generators. So now the situation where we had in Diamond, where we would have had power outages and so on, and the entire community would have been out for long hours, that situation now has been addressed. So now we're able to get a more consistent supply, and that in itself improves the service level. So, I'm happy. 50,000 residents now are benefiting from a better supply.
I think they'll be more happy than you.
Yes, and it's for me. Once there's an improvement in quality, where people can access water and don't have it stain the utensils and so on, I'm always happy. Always happy for that. But I always say that I'm looking for 3 things. They must be able to drink the water from the tap. They must come at such a pressure that they was able to get it at the shower, and they must be available 24 hours. If we fail in any one of these, then we would have failed in terms of our mandate.
And we've definitely made a lot of strides in terms of 24 access to water, not only in Georgetown, but also in Berbice, New Amsterdam, and so forth. And I'd like to be real, you mentioned that we're heading in this direction, and we are definitely seeing results. But there are still some areas, where we have to put more work on. And I'll open this question to either you or Mr. Anderson, or both of you can give your take on it. Last year, the Water Quality Department, headed by Dr. Anderson, received accreditation, national accreditation from the GNBS, and we also boast of reaching WHO, World Health Organization, health-based guidelines at all of our water treatment plants. But yet there are still some customers who would complain from time to time about the high presence of iron in their water. Is the iron harmful to health? How would you respond to customers who have these concerns?
Thanks, Diana. I think I'll answer that question. And it's a question that persons definitely ask, and I'm happy you asked that. The iron, as you would know, is not harmful to health. And this is one of the reasons that persons can feel safe when their doctors prescribe iron tablets or, to assist in health or so on. So iron is not of any harm to health. However, it affects the aesthetics of the water. In other words, it affects the appearance of the water. It can cause staining to clothing, bathroom, etc. And therefore, we want to be able to have water that when it comes through your taps, it's free of iron. That's one of the reasons we're looking at technologies to remove the iron completely from the wells. Typically here in Ghana we take water from various sources, the surface water sources like the creeks and the lakes, but also from the groundwater, and the groundwater specifically is where the iron becomes a problem because it comes from the soil, the geographical makeup of the land, the rocks and so forth. So we're looking at some oxidizing filters, both manufacturing in-house as well as outsourcing, because they're very costly. As a matter of fact, one of these equipment can cost as much as 40 million Guyana dollars.
Wow.
Right. So this oxidizing filter, which is based on manganese dioxide ore, it actually helps to remove the iron completely from the water. So whilst, as I mentioned, whilst the iron has no effect, no harmful effect on health, it definitely is something that we don't want to see in our water because of the negative effects it can have on the aesthetics. We've also been using a food grade substance, which is Sequest, to be able to entrap the iron so that it can minimize the staining effects it may have when it comes through your pipes. So persons can rest assured that we're working assiduously in terms of finding a solution to be able to eliminate the iron completely from the water, so that when it comes through the taps, they can now be more comfortable in using it to wash their white clothes, to do their household chores, etc.
Okay. Well, that is good to know. I mean, we hear your complaints, and we're definitely aware of what is it you go through, and that's why we're seeking to find different means and mechanisms in order to alleviate some of these situations.
Aliana, to the
Yes.
Dr. Anderson said, up to a few minutes ago before we came here, we tested an in-house experiment that we're actually doing, where we're looking at local design system to be able to remove the iron that Dr. Anderson spoke about.
So this was built in-house?
In-house.
Wow.
So we're doing some testing presently. It's showing very good results. But over the next 2-3 years, that is the area that we're going to be focusing a lot on, where we're going to be looking at systems, low-cost systems, and systems that will allow us to really move the issue of removing iron across the coast. I mean, it took us, the 3 plants would have taken us about 3 to 4 years to really have the contract in place and construct. We don't want to wait so long to be able to remove the iron across the coast. We still have the areas in Essequibo and Berbice and East Coast and all these areas that have high iron. So we cannot wait for another 4 years. So we're looking at initiatives right at GWI that will allow us to really accelerate this process. And within the next 2 years, we try to remove the whole iron issue across the coast.
So we just like persons to know, while you think that all we're doing is providing water to persons on a daily basis, there are a lot of things happening behind the scenes that our engineers are doing to ensure that your service is improved. And you mentioned the 3 water treatment plants that will serve 50,000 persons, and in these areas we've also moved to meter persons.
Yeah.
And I know aside from those areas, GWI has been moving swiftly to meter persons generally across the country. But there is a misconception, Mr. Daniels, our Director of Customer Services. There is a misconception by some of our customers that they will be required to pay more once they get a meter, once a meter is installed on their property. How would you dispel this belief?
I'm actually very happy to ask that question. Because indeed it could be a misconception. But the benefit of the meter really allows the customer to be able to be charged for a specific volume of water that would have been consumed, as opposed to an unmetered customer that gets a flat charge irrespective of what water would have been consumed. So obviously for a customer is not metered, and that customer who would have been maybe trying to conserve on their water use would have no benefit in terms of the water bill at the end of the month. But with a meter, it allows that customer to be able to be charged for exactly what they would have used, be it zero or be it over that. And that's really the benefit of having a meter. So it is a misconception indeed that if you are metered, you pay more. But the answer to that is that you actually pay for exactly what you use if you meter. The onus remains on you, the customer, to change your perhaps your habits, to be able to conserve and use only what you need. So we've always tried our best to reassure the public that the meter is a good thing. It saves us and it saves you, the customer.
Okay, and I'm glad you said that too, because we speak about conservation all the time, and I know of a friend of mine who has been using water, as they please. Sometimes they walk away, they leave the pipe running, and the bill was only coming at a certain amount. But then they got the meter, and then the bill, went on a spike, and they thought that something went wrong, but it's only because they got the meter, it showed that,
Exactly,
they
yes.
were actually wasting the water.
Correct,
So it
yes.
serves as a monitoring mechanism as well.
Yeah, but the thing is, if you can't measure it, you really can't manage it.
Right.
So, as Marlon said, if you're an unmetered customer, you really can't manage your supply because you're not able to measure it. When you have a meter, I mean, if we reference the story that you
Yes.
just, at least what would have happened to the customer afterwards is that they would have realized now that I'm using too much water, and then they would have started to conserve. Now, that would have mean that water would have been available for somebody else
Correct, yes.
that normally would have been wasted. So it's
Like at the other end of the network.
that's right. It's a finite resource. It has to go somewhere. And the thing is, these are some of the benefits we saw in Diamond and Sheet Tanker and iFlood. We were able to meet the customers. Customers are receiving water at ground level, and I would get calls for low pressure in 5th Street and low pressure at the back. Now everybody's getting water. I have a friend of mine told me on Saturday he hasn't used his pump in a long while. And that's just because we metered persons. So, there are many other benefits of metering.
And the other thing is that you see the investment that both Dwayne and Dion and Ramchan would have spoken about. The metering really allows that investment to be spread across a wider cross section of the population, because then customers are persuaded, I would say, to use exactly what you need. And the case that Dwayne highlighted is the classic case we like to talk about, because that's the effective metering that area where a treatment plant or the high investment has been constructed allows more customers to get access to water, get access to better service, a better quality, a better standard of water, better pressure. And it also allows the utility company to, I think, Dwayne may correct me, I think we would have been able to decommission a station or two, and thus saving our company resources which can be used in other areas. So it's a win-win. It's really a win-win.
Actually,
It's, I'm correct. 3 stations.
put them on standby.
For our customers and our viewers, just dive a little bit more into that. When he says decommission,
Or in Shitanka area, the area both in the Kanji, Borbis area, we serve that area from 4 wells. 4 wells. We had the Shitanka well that served part of that area. We had the Cumberland well. We had the Canefield well, and then we had the Adelphi well.
so they were all interconnected.
all interconnected. After we would have metered customers, the pressure went up so much that the customers would call us and say, listen, you need to turn on the pressure, it's too high. So we
That's
kept
a rare call.
exactly. So we kept taking off wells, and we realized that after we took off 3 wells, they still was calling. They still were calling, indicating that the pressure is too high, and we were only running 1 well. So we were able to have 3 wells on standby, and the entire area now is served just by 1 well.
Wow. And this is just because they conserved,
Exactly.
Because
they reduced their
because they
consumption.
can manage it, no, because they can measure it.
Nice. I like that story there. Okay, so we're going to take a short break, and when we get back, we'll hear more from these gentlemen, especially as it relates to calculating your consumption. A lot of persons don't quite know how to do that as yet, so we're going to find out more. Oh, hey, talk about intrusion of privacy. But since you're here, do you know what happens when you flush your toilet? Or better yet, do you know what happens when you flush what you aren't supposed to? Some of us probably have a long list of things that we flush down the toilet, but there are actually only 2 things you're supposed to. What we do here, human waste, and of course, toilet tissue. Let's find out more.
When you flush the toilet, you go to our sewer chambers, then you go straight to our GWI sewer line, then you go to our pumps. When you flush the toilet, don't use what you're not supposed to use, because it goes and blocks our sewer line, and we have to go and find where the blockage is to get it cleared.
So remember, the next time you use your toilet, things such as paper towels, sanitary napkins, dental floss, condoms, and newspapers are not to be flushed. Welcome back. If you're now joining us, you're looking at a program with the GWI reflecting on our successes for 2019 and projections for 2020. And I've got a panel of engineers, even though they serve in various capacities. And before the break, we told you that we were going to speak about consumption and how you calculate it. So I'll ask you, Mr. Sheko, as the Director of Operations. Persons have their meter, and now because of our app, they can access the meter, the box is open, and they can read their meter dial. How exactly is water measured, and how do they go about reading their meter to know their consumption?
All right. We measure, at GWI, we measure water in terms of the unit we use is meter cube, or cubic meters. If we equate that cubic meter in terms of gallons that most people are accustomed to, really it's about 220 US gallons, 264 UK gallons. So if we stick to the US gallons, it's really about half a black tank of water. We're talking about a 450 gallon tank.
Right.
Eh? So it's really about half a black tank. So what happens is that you'll see your meter have about 5 dials to the right, or sorry, to the left of the 2 red dials. So we have 2 red dials, and to the left of that we have 5 of the black dials. The red dials are not red. These are just counters that are going around as the propeller spins. Those red dials just goes around. Now every time you use half a black tank of water, your meter jumps 1 revolution. So let's say, for instance, your meter starts at 00001. Right? So your first number after the 2 red dial is 1. You consume half a black tank of water, it moves to 2. You consume another half a black tank of water, it moves to 3. It's going to move until that first dial goes to 9. When that first dial goes to 9, you consume another 220 gallons. The second dial now moves to 1. So you have consumed 10 cubic meters. And it goes like that. The second dial now is going to go until it reaches 9. And then the third dial now is going to start at 1. And that is how it progresses. So really it's to understand that if every time you use a 450 gallon tank of water, you use 2 cubic meters of water. And that's how we build it. And for me I like to use the black tank because there's a lot of black tanks across Guyana, and we are accustomed to it. It's something we want to get rid of, actually. It's an indication that people don't have confidence in the supply. So we have to work on that. But it's a good measuring tool for you to understand how to measure. And if you use your black tank as an indication, if, for instance, your black tank is emptying quite quickly, it tells me that you're consuming a lot of water. You can use a black tank to know exactly how much you're being paid.
Okay.
Or you're going to pay something.
And I know our managing director, he also likes to use the comparison with the bottled water that you buy. How much do you pay for that? It's like $200.
Yes.
And how much do we charge
$112
per cubic meter?
per cubic meter, which is 200 and so you're paying for half a black tank of water, right? You're paying $112, and you go to the shop and you buy 1 liter of water for $200.
Actually, less than 1 liter.
Actually.
So
1 liter is actually, if you equate to a half a black tank, 1 meter cube is 1,000 liters.
Correct, yes.
So you have 1,000 bottles, if it's a 1 liter bottle, for $112.
That actually led me up to my question that I want to ask Dr. Anderson. You see, as workers of GWI, we have the confidence in our product. And I know that your department has been engaging in a lot of flushing, and persons would pass sometimes on the road, they would see from a hydrant, a fire hydrant, lots of water pouring out. Could you explain what this process of flushing does in terms of improving the quality of water and allowing us to use from the tap?
Sure. So the process of flushing, simply put, is allowing water from the distribution network to flush out of the system at high velocity so that they can, if there's any buildup or incrustations along the pipelines, that can actually be released from the system to maintain the water quality. Because as you may know, the water leaving the facility, the treatment plant or the pump station, it travels along the pipe network, distribution network before it gets to the customers. And those pipe networks are exposed to weather conditions and so forth. So there can be a change in some of the parameters of the water, and therefore to ensure that there isn't a compromise in the overall quality of the water while it travels to the customers, we engage in flushing activities. So if there's any buildup, if there's any accumulation of solids, then that can be released out of the system so that clean, fresh, potable water can always be supplied to customers. So we have various schedules in different parts of the country depending on the water quality. So areas that have a lot more iron in their water would require more flushing as opposed to areas that don't. So this allows us, therefore, to ensure that any buildup is, the effect of that is minimized, it's mitigated, and the water that gets to our customers continues to be of good quality.
Well, you know, Liana, it's a perception out there that once it's in a bottle, it's safe, and once it's aesthetically clear, it's biologically safe, and that's not true, because we can bring a supply of water here that is crystal clear, but it has a lot of E. coli.
Right.
So it doesn't mean that because it's in a bottle or it looks clear, they mean that the water is safe. What we focus on is ensuring that the water is biologically safe for consumption, and that gives us reason why we haven't had any major diseases spread, of cholera and anything across this country, because we ensured that and it's tested every hour. We do testing in our distributions. We flush. We have team working round the clock testing to ensure that not only is aesthetically clear, but it's free from any microbe.
And on that note, Dr. Anderson, what are some of the monitoring mechanisms your department uses in terms of ensuring that the water is of that standard that, of WHO parameters?
Right, so GWI has been intensifying its efforts in ensuring that the water meets the WHO standards or WHO guidelines. And when we talk about WHO guidelines, what exactly do we mean? They're basically drinking water guidelines established by the World Health Organization to ensure that the water supply is safe for human consumption. So there are various parameters that are tested, as Mr. Shako mentioned, on an hourly basis at some locations, on a daily basis at others, to ensure that this water is safe for consumption. Just to name a few: the pH, the turbidity, the coliforms, the E. coli. And WHO, in as much as it has all of the different parameters and they make recommendations, they have very strict regulations for health-based guidelines. And we can safely say we've tested over 8,000 samples and more for this year, which has resulted in over 20,000 tests.
Wow.
And in all of our samples, between 95 to 100% of the samples have been microbiologically safe, and whenever there's any deviation from that, we have to act swiftly to ensure that we maintain that window. So we have been, first of all, ever since the establishment of the Water Quality Laboratory, we have been working assiduously to ensure that we get the lab certified, which we achieved for the first time in the history of the company. In last year, we achieved the national certification from National Bureau of Standards, and I personally believe that all water producers that produce water, whether it be bottled water or not, they should be certified, because certification helps you to it gives the customer confidence in the competence of the analysts that are doing the test, in the competence in the equipment being used to ensure that it's accurate, it's precise, it's reliable, and also in the confidence in the standard operating procedures and policies that they're adhering to international standards. And we work with the ISO standards, 17025. So we've been able to achieve that certification. We've increased also our suite of tests. So we're not only testing for chemical parameters and physical parameters, microbiological parameters, and other parameters that are related to taste and odor. Because many times persons might be skeptical about the safety of the water or maybe the taste of the water. So we've been engaging in tests that can give you that sense of the degree of palatability of the water, the total dissolved solids, conductivity, salinity, and all of these things. Additionally, we have also been rolling out mini labs in different parts of the country. So in Georgetown, we have a very active mini lab that tests 24/7.
Oh, yeah.
So as I like to say, as the nation sleeps, we test. Right? So every hour on the hour, we take samples from different parts of the production process, and we test that so that we can, one, you can have more informed decision making, and you can arrest any situation that may result in any deviation before it gets out to the public. We also have a very vibrant mini lab in Region 6. We have a few others along in different regions, and we're rolling out more in the new year. Recently, what we've done, especially in the hinterland, for the 57 different villages in Region 9 alone, we've been training a few servicemen and other personnel so that they can test the samples on site, so that you eliminate the need to get back to Georgetown to the laboratory, eliminate the need to travel, and the conditions under which the samples has to be stored. You can now test the samples right away and have the samples, the results available within 24 hours. So there are some locations that you may spend more than 24 hours just trying to get to the location. But now you can have the samples tested and results available within 24 hours. And I think this would be very, it's going to be a paradigm shift for the hinterland region, and of course on the coast as well, so the person can have more feedback. You have schools, health centers, hospitals, wells, and homes, of course, and therefore person need to ensure that there's that level of comfort in the water they use.
I hear you. We need to have that confidence in our tap water. Mr. Daniels, I'm going to ask you, I know that your department and GWI has seen major improvement as it relates to its bill delivery as well as revenue collection, significantly reducing the company's total debt figure. Can you elaborate a bit on this and tell us some of your projections for the new year?
Thank you. Well, I'd perhaps first like to start by acknowledging the discussion that we've had tonight. And looking at the developments that we would have heard from the other colleagues on the panel, GWI has always aimed towards being a self-sufficient company, and in most part, we have achieved that. As we have expanded our services and provided more for the people of Guyana, across the hinterland, across the coast, we have done tremendous work in increasing customer confidence in the product that we provide. I too, like every other member of this panel, I only drink tap water. I only use tap water. The resource requirement for those types of developments are pretty heavy. And as I mentioned, we have aimed and we have achieved self-sufficiency throughout our existence, or for the most part, over the last 3-4 years. We depend heavily on the customer base to give us the resources to be able to sustain ourselves. And we are always appreciative of the responses that we get from the customer base. We have to do our bit in terms of ensuring that our meters are read on time, ensuring that our bills are delivered on time. Some Ghanaians still have the culture that if they don't have a bill in their hands, then they have difficulty paying. Equally, if they receive a bill that is estimated, they have difficulty paying. So we've tried our best to ensure that, using very proactive measures really to ensure that is met. And the response, I think, has been wonderful from the customer base. We have continued to increase our collections, and that justifies the work that we've been doing really. In the new year, I think we would continue to see an improved response from the customer base. We have tried to call customers with a simple reminder to come to pay their bills before it's due, because we really do not like to encourage our staff to interrupt the services of our customers. In the new year, this initiative is going to be increased in a tremendous way. We are now moving towards automating those calls, and we've decided to perhaps classify the calls into a couple of categories, maybe 3 categories. We understand that there are customers on in the database or on the customers that we serve that have always been loyal. They always pay on time before time. We think we like to from time to time call them to say thank you and to encourage them to keep doing so. There are some customers that simply need a nudge, and we have no difficulty in making that nudge. We can call you to just encourage you before the due date passes to make a payment. Regrettably, there are a very small fraction of customers that do not or choose not to honor their obligations in a timely manner, and those customers also we intend to target, force off to make a call, and certainly, regrettably also, if that doesn't work, then we may move to implementing more persuasive techniques. I would want to say. But I'd like to highlight the point, and we're very good at persuasion. But I really like to highlight the point to say that the improvements that we've seen, and we started the program by commenting on what we've achieved and what we've been recognized for internationally. Those improvements really come from a tremendous effort to ensure that resources are available. We can do so much more if we get more resources, and we really depend heavily on the customer base to respond in a timely manner to our demands or our requests for payment.
So what you're basically saying is that if you do not receive a bill, even though we're working on improving this service, GWI will be reaching out to these customers to just give them a reminder, because
Correct, yes.
right, so they're using the service, they know that they're using the service, but sometimes we need a little reminder. Like I had to remind Mr. Shako today to come on the program, even though we spoke yesterday.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, we have a responsibility to ensure bill is delivered to your premises. We are going to be rolling out e-billing already next year. So some people's, and I won't want to say Generation X or Generation Next, but some customers really don't like to see paper.
Yeah.
So those customers, we respect your views, and we're going to give you an option really.
Right.
It's not going to be either or. It's going to be, well, you would have a choice to say exactly what type of bill you want. So that's going to improve our efficiency in delivering bills. I know we would have spoken on previous programs about the customer app that we have, which allows you to check your balance real time. Hopefully in the new year also, we're going to allow you to pay from that app. I must recognize the service of our payment agencies, SurePay, with Express, the post office, has helped us tremendously. So customers have that option to be able to pay at different locations. In the new year, we're also going to be rolling out in-office kiosks. This is really to ease the burden in the offices of having staff who have to service every customer. So you can have a self-service kiosk in any office, and if you want very quick, because people are busy, people want to get in and get out. If you get into the office and the line is too long to pay or you do a query, you can go to the kiosk and access your account and make whatever transactions you want to do there. So these are things we're going to roll out in 2020. All aimed towards improving service to the customer base and certainly to sustain the developmental trust that we're on.
Okay. And Mr. Shako, I think that you can, wrap up for the panel when I ask you this final question. I know that GWI is acquiring 2 new rigs, and Mr. Jala spoke earlier about the resistivity login. I know these are some new things that we will be using in the new year. So just tell us a little bit about these rigs and how they will change the way GWI does its work, as well as other projections for 2020.
Well, not only the 2 rigs, I'll elaborate a little on the rig, but we have also acquired a well maintenance truck that will also, it's a state-of-the-art truck that will allow us to maintain wells in 24 hours. So we can take a well out and have it clean and replace within 24 hours. So that will also be a feature in the new year. But yes, we would have acquired 2 rigs, one for the hinterland that will assist Mr. Jailal in terms of going through the rocks and able to access potable water, better quality water. And then we have a rig that is coming for the coast, which will allow us to drill to about 2,500 to 3,000 feet. And this is important for us because we speak about access. We still have a lot of areas and not a new housing developments that are coming on stream. We have the Providence Farm area. We have Parfait Harmony. We have the Tushin area. We have areas in Burbis, and all of these areas that are on the East Coast, there's a lot of new housing schemes that are coming on the street that we need to have a supply for. We don't want to be in a situation where the schemes are there and then now we're hustling to catch up in terms of getting the supply. We want to try to be proactive. So the rigs are here, and the rigs will allow us now to really work with our colleagues at communities where we're now able to plan better and have these wells drill faster. I mean, the thing is that the cost of well drilling is, it keeps going up. The price of material, the price of stainless steel, and all of these costs are rising. And in order for us to sustain the progress we're making and ensure that the money that's well spent, as Mr. Daniels indicate, we have to look at being self-sufficient and able to drill our own wells. So the rigs will be here, and within the first month of the new year in January, actually we'll be drilling 2 wells in farm. And those are the first 2 wells that are going to be drilling in the new year. 2 wells in the farm, Providence, Hurstelin area. That will allow us to serve the new Prospect area and all of these areas. The well maintenance truck will also be here early next year within the first quarter, and that will also allow us to now have our wells clean and maintained. The another important area that we're looking in terms of Essequibo. Now we have areas in Essequibo where the iron contents are very, very high, 50-something milligrams per liter, 4 times or as much as 10 times
as Georgetown.
Right. So it's really and that's one of the areas that we're using Sequest, and it's really a situation there that we really would want to correct. We've been accessing the aquifer just around 350 feet, but that aquifer has proven to be of a high iron content. So within the new year, very early, we'll be drilling through the rocks in Essequibo, try to penetrate the rocks like we did in Amelia's ward recently, and in Linden.
Because we weren't able to do this in the past.
That's right. So with these rigs, we'll be able to penetrate the rocks, and be quite sure that once we're able to penetrate those rocks, we'll be able to have now a better quality water. So that will allow us now to phase out some of these wells that we have, like Lima Sands and areas like Dry Shore and on the Neiman, and all of these areas that we have wells where the iron contents are high. We'll be able to drill wells, have a better quality water, so that we can improve persons' standard of living and quality of life. So we'll be moving in that direction pretty soon to have our own wells done.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you, Mr. Shekun, and thank you to our entire panel. We had Mr. Ramchandra Lal, Mr. Marlon Daniels, and Dr. Dion Anderson. Thank you so much for your wealth of knowledge. I hope that our viewers were definitely informed about their areas and generally the work that GWI is doing to improve our service to the general populace, both on the coastland and on the hinterland. We want to encourage you to reach out to GWI if you have any questions of any sort. You can reach out to us on our website at www.gwiguyana.gy. We have our live chat there. You can also speak with a customer service rep at 227-8701. And you can also inbox us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Guyana Water Incorporated. Or you can drop us an email at customercallcenter@gwi.gy. My name is Leanna Bradshaw. Thanks for watching.